Hey, before we dive in, please take a quick moment to support this podcast. Hit subscribe, like this episode, share it with someone who might need it, and drop a comment with what resonates for you. Your engagement really helps this podcast grow and reach more listeners. I appreciate your support. Thank you. Now let's go. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Jacobs, equipping us and our relationships to keep moving forward. So come and journey with me, and along the way, stick these tools in your back pocket. Acceptance is one of the most transformative processes in human growth. It's not a passive act of giving up, but a dynamic movement toward peace, clarity, and emotional freedom. In a world that glorifies fixing, changing, and controlling, learning to accept can feel radical. Yet, it's through acceptance that we often rediscover our sense of self and the possibility of wholeness. The path toward acceptance often begins after a loss of some kind: disruption, grief, heartbreak, illness, or any deep disappointment that unsettles our sense of control. When life upends our expectations, our first instinct is to fight reality, to wish it were different, to resist. We replay events, deny truths, or search for reasons, believing that understanding why might protect us from pain. Yet the more we resist, the tighter the suffering holds. As our attempts to undo the pain fall short, we arrive at a crossroads: continue resisting and suffering, or soften into what is. Acceptance is born not from defeat, but from the realization that peace comes when we stop battling what we cannot control. It begins where resistance ends, when we stop trying to make what has happened unhappen and instead learn to walk with it. It is an act of strength rooted in the understanding that peace does not depend on circumstances, but on how we meet them. Acceptance is not a single moment of clarity. Instead, it unfolds in layers. It is less an event and more a series of internal shifts. It first begins with awareness, an honest acknowledgement of what is true, no matter how inconvenient or painful, a willingness to see what's happening without denial or avoidance. Next comes allowance, a quiet permission for emotions, thoughts, and truths to exist without judgment or suppression. Gradually, understanding follows, the gentle exploration of what this experience reveals about our values, needs, or limits. Finally, we move toward integration, living in alignment with this new reality rather than against it, embracing a new understanding that is no longer at war with ourselves or the truth. Acceptance rarely arrives neatly or with finality. Instead, the process is often nonlinear, asking us to revisit grief and humility as we encounter new meanings and a deeper compassion along the way. Grief often accompanies the journey toward acceptance because acceptance almost always requires letting go of expectations, identities, hopes, or attachments to how life should have been. To accept reality as it is means acknowledging that something we valued, needed, or imagined may be gone or forever changed, and that realization naturally evokes grief. This grief isn't limited to death. It also arises through endings and transitions. For example, a relationship that dissolves, a dream that fades, a chapter of life that closes. Each loss reshapes our sense of meaning and security, and before we can truly accept the new reality, we must first mourn what has been lost. Grieving aids acceptance by reconciling the gap between what was and what is. Initial resistance may shield us, but feeling our emotions enables the heart to adapt. Acceptance blossoms when we can hold the memory of what was and the truth of what now is, without trying to erase either. In this way, grief is a bridge to acceptance. It helps us metabolize loss so what remains can take a new, integrated shape, honoring the past while living with meaning and purpose in the present. Without grief, acceptance remains theoretical, but with it, acceptance is embodied and freeing. While grief often accompanies the journey toward acceptance, acceptance becomes a vital step on the path to forgiveness. Though related, acceptance and forgiveness are distinct. Acceptance releases the need for reality to be different, while forgiveness releases the resentment tied to it, another person, or ourselves. We can accept what happened without excusing it and accept our feelings without approving of them. Through acceptance, we stop battling the why and what if questions that keep us entangled in pain, and we allow the truth of what occurred to surface without denial or distortion. This honesty forms the foundation for forgiveness, transforming chaos into clarity and letting us say, "This is what happened, and I can live with this truth." Once acceptance takes root, we stop rewriting the past and start focusing on healing in the present. We make peace with the unchangeable parts of our experience, allowing forgiveness to arise naturally, not from force or willpower, but from emotional readiness. In this way, acceptance grounds forgiveness, making it possible, real, and enduring, anchored in truth, release, and renewal. Perhaps the deepest form of acceptance is self acceptance, the willingness to meet ourselves with honesty and compassion, and to hold both our strengths and our shadows without harsh judgments or comparisons. Self acceptance is not complacency, it is the foundation of change rooted in self awareness rather than shame. When we stop rejecting what is imperfect within us, our energy shifts from self criticism to growth, shaping how we show up in the world. Acceptance also transforms our relationships by teaching us to see others as they are, not as we wish they would be. This does not mean tolerating harm or abandoning boundaries, but recognizing another's humanity, their capacity, limitations, and individuality. When we release the need to rewrite others' stories to fit our expectations, we create space for genuine connection, one grounded in respect, understanding, and authenticity. So, why does acceptance matter? Well, from a psychological perspective, it is essential for emotional regulation, resilience, and overall well being. It interrupts cycles of shame, denial, and avoidance that keep us emotionally stuck, allowing the nervous system to settle and shift from reactivity into presence and clarity. When we stop fighting reality, we reclaim energy for healing and creativity. Acceptance does not mean giving up, it means showing up fully and honestly with compassion for what is. At its heart, acceptance helps restore wholeness. Wholeness is not perfection, but coherence. The grace of holding all that we are and all that we've experienced with understanding, moving through the world with greater internal alignment and peace. In embracing our imperfections and experiences, we become less defined by them and more empowered to grow through them. What once felt unbearable begins to feel meaningful. What once felt lost becomes part of the wisdom that shapes who we are becoming. Acceptance is not a single act, but a lifelong practice, a daily invitation to meet life on its own terms. Acceptance asks us to hold the tension between what we wish for and what is, between loss and love, between imperfection and grace. Within that practice lies deep healing. When we accept what is, we experience freedom to create what can be. Acceptance is a radical act of compassion that turns suffering into understanding and resistance into peace. When we learn to accept, we loosen the hold of fear and discover the quiet strength in simply being. Acceptance is not about liking what is, it is about freeing ourselves to live honestly within it. So let me ask you, what is one area of your life right now where you sense acceptance is being asked of you? And how might leaning into that acceptance change the way you relate to yourself, others, or your story?